Hey guys, first regardsman here, and I'll be talking about the new PTS patch notes for patch 11.0. Now this came out 11 minutes ago. I did just wake up, so bear with me if I'm a little groggy, but we're going to go through all of these here right now before I get on this official PTS server. So here they say new features, a new PvE map reclamation. Operation Reclamation takes place in orbit above the planet Avarax. A squad of Space Marines is deployed to a critically damaged Imperial cruiser to purge it of Tyranid infestation. However, as the mission unfolds, the objectives begin to shift. I haven't played this one yet, but that sounds pretty interesting. I know in the actual PTS server here, we will not have access to the finale boss fight, kind of like we have the Trigon and like the initial PTS for like 6.0 or so. Still pretty cool though, so I'm really looking forward to that. Next, they say new PvE equipment, the Sanctified Wrath. Upon use, the player's melee damage is increased by 25% for 15 seconds, and the player is immune to knockbacks. When used, enemies within a small radius are pushed back. Now, the big thing here is being immune to knockbacks. I'm curious if this is going to function like the knockback perks in the base game here, or this is going to be like the immunity to invulnerability we have with some of the things like Emperor's Grace, where you basically phase through an attack. So that's pretty good. I mean, 25% melee damage increase is okay. 15 seconds is a pretty long uptime, but like for a pickup, I assume this is gonna be like an armor boost or something where you just grab it off the ground, but that sounds actually pretty good, better than I expected. Maybe not as interesting of an effect as people were expecting, but not the worst thing ever. Next, they say new battlefield conditions. More than 40 battlefield conditions have been added. I mean, I doubt they're going to list them all here, but 40 is quite a large number. And here is probably one of the most important parts and the things people are really interested in, which is the new heroic items. Added 6 heroic weapons and armor pieces to unlock with accolades, weapons, heavy bolt pistol, heavy bolter, instigator bolt carbine, bolt sniper, power fist, and thunder hammer. Now, these two here, probably like the bolt sniper rifle, these are probably the ones people are going to be the most interested in. I'm not sure what the Power Fist one does yet, but here they also say they have armor pieces, Mark 7 helmet, Black Templar's Crusader helmet, Veteran Molecular Bonding Studs, Right Pauldron, Honorific Gem, Right Pauldron, Community Aligned Shroud, Right Pauldron, and Veteran Shroud, Right Pauldron. So we get another 6 armor pieces. That's a pretty substantial addition here, because for one patch, it seems like every patch will add in 6 new heroic items. That's pretty damn good. That's the same as we got in the anniversary patch, and I assume these will all be here in the test server for everybody to play around with like max level. So pretty cool stuff here, and obviously the Mark 7 Firstborn helmet is something people are really looking forward to in general, so really cool to finally see one without the laurels here, so I can't wait to pick those up. Next, it says New Year Pass content, only visible in the shop but can't be equipped. The Blood Angel Champion pack is added, and its signature chainsword skin, and the Salamander's cosmetic pack. Now, I am a huge fan of Blood Angels in really 40k lore in general. Sanguinius is my favorite Primarch. This is going to be on the tactical class, and you also get the signature chainsword because of that. And you'll also be getting like a Blood Angels jump pack for the assault, so a little bit of a like bonus there. So pretty cool stuff. I haven't seen these in game yet. I'm actually currently updating my game to play on the PTS as we speak. Once I get in there, I can't wait to take a look at these. And the Salamander's cosmetic pack, Dark Krakens are coming, so that's also pretty neat. Next, I have Chaos customization in the PvP. Customization of Chaos classes is now available using armor parts from sets. If you're a big fan of PvP, this might be huge news to you. For me, I don't really care at all because I don't play PvP in this game, but Chaos customization is pretty cool from what I've seen. Next, they have gameplay and balancing tweaks. Assault new feature. Added a set of jump pack dash attacks for Assault new feature. Added a set of jump pack dash attacks for Assault that are much quicker and responsive than normal sprint attacks. Dash attacks should be affected by all perks that affect sprint attacks as well. Please note that visual effects are currently not finished. So they did mention that just like the shield rush on the Bulwark, they will be adding new features like this to all the classes. Looks like Assault is up next. That's pretty cool because Assault has been neglected for a while. The underutilization of his jump pack dash has been like one of the biggest complaints. Looks like they're trying to address that now with this new feature, so that's pretty cool. Now here for melee, they say the power axe. Chained Whirl Slash can now be performed after an overhead strike. That's a nice little quality of life feature. They also said the overhead strike damage is increased by 50%. I'm not sure how much that is going to help. It might help out the lunge attack things because overhead strike, I believe, is just a lunge attack. And things like Wind Fury on the assault do benefit from that, so that is pretty cool. Now, Perk Riposte became a default behavior. After performing a power backstep, hold attack button to perform an overhead strike, and the Perk Riposte is changed to overhead strike damage after backstab is doubled. This is a far, far better buff to your overhead strike than before. Riposte was a pretty trash perk previously, and it really should have been built into the weapon. Getting bonus damage is far better. Let's say the blocking versions can now enter power stance, and this is probably the biggest change because the blocking version of the Power Axe, it does pretty decent damage, but you were basically missing out on one of the coolest features of the Power Axe in general, which was, of course, the power stance. That is fixed here, so pretty great change. Now here they say for the heroic double-edged relic chainsword, that trampling stride perk now works with a heroic perk combo. This is just the double stomp instead of like the single stomp perk. This was previously not working on the heroic chainsword for whatever reason. A pretty great change here. This is like one of the most synergistic perks in general for this thing, in my opinion. It's synergistic a word. Either way, it was a great perk, and I'm glad they actually fixed this. Next, they also say double heavy combo can now be performed after a whirl/sprint attack. That's pretty nice, though, to be honest, I don't think this thing is going to seriously benefit from that much, but Trampling Stride is pretty great. Now, Heroic Power Gladius Combat Knife, damage buff now lasts for 1 second after the first instance of damage instead of being wasted on a single enemy. This is huge. This makes it function a lot more like the block weapons in the game. Having like a lasting damage buff even for 1 second is pretty enormous in Space Marine 2, and it's actually a great change. It's actually a change I thought they would make, and they didn't actually nerf the damage buff at all, so pretty huge buff, to be honest. Great stuff for the Power Gladius here. Now here for the firearms, they say heavy bolt rifle base damage increased by 30%. I mean, this is pretty basic, but pretty huge because the heavy bolt rifle is unfortunately one of the most underperforming guns currently. I'll have to try this out at some point, but for now, that seems like a pretty decent change. And now bolt pistol as well got a base damage increase of 15%. Now, the bolt pistol was severely underperforming compared to the heroic bolt pistol. I don't know how much a 15% base damage increase is going to help, but we'll see. Now here, the heroic combi melta also got a buff to its damage of 15% for both the bolter and melta firing modes. To be honest, I don't really think the issue was like the base damage as much as like the headshot multiplier and the bloom effect on the bolt portion, and the melta firing was just not that great in the first place. Now here, the multi-melta actually got a bit of a nerf. It says the change allowing the player to shoot from a standing position immediately after firing from the blind, removing the previous delay, has been reverted. The interval between shots is now enforced when transitioning to the standing position. So basically, you could like triple fire your melta for a bit. You can no longer do that. Still a really strong weapon. It's just not like actually broken anymore. Next, they have perk changes here. Tactical Signal Jammer. The perk has been reworked. Thank God Signal Jammer was donkey ass in this game. It's one of like the worst perks I've ever made. It says the old enemies marked by Auspex scan cannot call for reinforcements and automatically explode upon attempting to do so. And the new one is after marking an Auspex scan, other enemies cannot call for reinforcement and automatically explode upon attempting to do so for 90 seconds. This is still awful. I'm going to be honest. This is still horrendous, but what are you going to do? Next, it says the Sniper here, precision targeting. Now perk works against extremis and terminus level enemies. That's pretty nice. It's still way worse than Squad Renewal. It also says Guardian Protocol, remove the cooldown. I mean, that is actually that's a pretty good change here. Ambush now also slows down nearby enemies for 10 seconds. I'll have to try these out. I'll be honest, these buffs don't seem like they matter too much. The Guardian Protocol might be the most important one, but we'll see in game. Next, they have Bulwark. Emergency countermeasure cooldowns decrease from 90 to 45 seconds. This is huge for shock builds. Emergency countermeasure is not a bad perk at all. Having a basically like squid inking grenade where you can just put down a shock mine immediately upon losing your armor is pretty massive. Great buff here. They just have the cooldown. I'm kind of shocked they did that, but shock builds sound a lot better now. Next to say Vanguard, grapnel launcher damage now scales based on difficulty. This is a huge buff because grapnel launcher damage is always pretty ass. You might actually do incredible amounts now. Maybe the diving kick damage perks are worth taking. We'll see. But that's, last time I had something like this where it's scaled based on difficulty was like Intimidating Aura. And Intimidating Aura is now one of the most overpowered perks in the game. So I can't wait to try this one out. Let's say Retribution, the perk has been reworked. The old one said after you are grabbed or knocked back, you deal 30% more melee damage for 20 seconds. And the new one is when your ranged weapons magazine is empty, melee damage increases by 20%. So this is just the Inferno perks, the Inferno Pistols perk here on the actual built-in thing for Vanguard. This still sounds pretty trash because having your weapon unloaded is pretty terrible, but this does happen more in primaries than it would on like your secondary at times. not as bad as it is on the Inferno pistol, but it could be pretty good. Next, I say moving target. The perk has been reworked. Old. Each melee attack you land reduces range damage you take by 5% up to 30%. If you do not land a melee attack for 5 seconds, the effect ends. And the new one is killing an enemy at a range of 30 meters or more restores ability charge by 5%. This is actually a great perk. Any CDR perk in this game is quite good. Now, this is definitely not worth taking over Upper Hand, unfortunately, because I would just take Inner Fire instead, and losing no knockback, it does suck. But, you know, Vanguard does have things like Indomitable Spirit in his Prestige perk tree for no knockback on Gunstrike, so it could still be pretty useful. I'll have to try this one out at some point. Now, Tenacity, the perk is reworked. The old one is, after killing 10 enemies in 5 seconds, diving kicks damage increased by 40% for 15 seconds. And the new one is, after a range kill majority level or higher enemies, diving kicks damage increases by 130%. Cooldown is 15 seconds. Now, this was one of the worst perks in the entire game of Space Marine 2. Now, with the buffs to the base damage of the grapnel launcher basing on the damage scaling on difficulty, this could be huge. 130% could be worth a lot more than before, and a 15-second cooldown is pretty long, but like not the worst thing ever. We'll have to see, because the trigger here of a range kill on a majority level or higher enemy is super easy to pull off, especially with like a tip of the spear build, though this is in the same tree. But either way, this could be a pretty huge buff, so that's pretty nice. Also, collateral damage increases damage by diving kick to 50%. That's also pretty huge. Pretty neat stuff there. Now, Assault's active attrition has been reworked. Old, the enemies hit by melee attacks take 50% more damage for 3 seconds, and the new one is enemies hit by damage from melee attacks executed while sprinting or dashing melee attacks take 25% more damage for 5 seconds. I'll be honest, I think this one was not bad at all. It was actually pretty good in the Power Axe, but this one doesn't sound terrible. It seems like they're trying to make like a dash attack build for the Power Axe, like the new overhead strike buffs, but to be honest, doesn't sound super amazing. And a 25% damage buff for 5 seconds isn't awful, but I'd rather just have like a debuff for, 3-second debuff is not great either, but this is also going to be a debuff, I assume, for like the 25% for your whole team. But I don't know, this one was not that bad, so I'm not sure if I like this change that much. We'll play around with it. Next, it says Battlefield Conditions, Great Responsibility. Increase HP bonus from 100% to 150%. This is kind of funny because this is one of the easiest ones to solo with bots because you just get the full benefit with no downside. Now, Retirement Barge, reduced HP debuff from 66% to 50%. I'm pretty sure this is just suboptimal state with like a bit of a change here, but suboptimal state was pretty annoying, so I'm not surprised he did this. Poorly fit suit, reduced damage by 33%. Equipment malfunction, restricted from appearing on exfiltration mission. This was a pretty big issue where people literally couldn't complete a daily at one point. It also says Surgical Strike, buff damage by 15%, and Extreme Challenge, increase extremis enemies spawn cooldown. That's kind of lame because this one was super fun and not that hard with like certain builds. Next, it says a gameplay quality of life, increased netcode damage cap. That's nice. A sniper damage buff from cloak ability lasts a little longer to fully affect the entire burst and full auto weapons. That is also pretty nice. It also says improved sound indication for unparryable attacks. This is pretty huge because this is the second time they've done this, and really, the human mind will respond to noise cues faster than like visual cues, which is why we shoot guns to basically tell people to start running in competitions like that. Pretty good change there. I'm curious to see how this sounds in game. They also say the Pyrokin heavy stance behavior with sprint now matches other heavy weapons. I'm not sure what this means exactly, but it could be good. Now for the AI, it says Chaos Spawn, fixed headshots not registering for the client-side hit detection weapons. This is huge, and they also add a headshot multiplier to the Vortex Beast. Chaos Spawn having a broken headshot multiplier made weapons like the Bolt Carbine feel ass. Same thing for the Vortex Beast, so great stuff here. Glad they actually fixed this. And they also say here, customization. Bots can now use the player class customization. This is also huge. I imagine this is for the upcoming Tech Marine launch where everybody will be stuck soloing it, so they want to make like bots a proper mode. Now, if they actually get your class customization for team perks, soloing with bots is going to be pretty damn easy in this game. That's actually a pretty great change, and bots might actually be better than most players with this update. Let's say added sorting of armors by rarity, and fixed Black Templar champion now has his chainsword power suit properly. Or now chains his power sword properly, and lots of minor customization fixes. That's pretty nice, but added sorting of armor by rarities is pretty neat. Now next it says levels, lots of minor fixes, level geometry, and general fixes. Fixed a bug with Vanguard's Restless Fortitude perk not activating when finishing off an enemy with the grapnel launcher. This makes tactical prowess build significantly better because previously the 40% range of damage reduction you got off a grapnel launcher with Restless Fortitude did not function at all if you got an execute off of tactical prowess, so pretty nice with that. I'm glad they changed this because that was pretty annoying. Next to say fixed a rare bug preventing Sniper's ability from recharging and working completely until the end of the match after getting hit during its activation. I have encountered this 2 times and it sucks ass. I'm glad this is gone. Let's say they fixed a rare bug preventing a player from using a gun strike on a Lictor after a perfect dodge. I have also encountered this. Fixed a bug on Assault's perk Overcharge, not increasing the damage of charge attacks for any weapon except the Thunder Hammer. This was a huge problem all of patch 10. I'm glad this is already fixed in the PTS because the Power Fist and Power Sword do actually benefit off of Overcharge on classes like the Bulwark, and right now the Thunder Hammer felt, or excuse me, the Assault felt a lot worse because of this. I'm glad that is finally fixed. Let's say fixed a bug with the Combat Knife, Combined Onslaught, and Heavy Onslaught perks do not apply to dash attacks. I mean, this didn't matter too much, but I'm glad this is also fixed. It also says fixed a bug with the Combat Knife. Shadow Stab is affected by the Combined Onslaught perk instead of Heavy Onslaught, despite being a heavy attack. Usually you take these two together, so it didn't matter too much, but it's kind of funny. I also say they fixed another bug with the Combat Knife with, once again, Combined Onslaught and Heavy Onslaught perks not applying to dash attacks. They put this here twice. Interesting. It says fixed a bug with the Power Sword with Speed Restoration weapon perk equipped. Contested health restoration values are swapped between power and speed mode second hits in a combo. Interesting little change. I didn't know that was an issue. It also says fixed a bug with the Power Sword. Power Restoration weapon perk not applying the restoration bonus to the 4th attack from the slashing weapon perk. Why are there so many bugs with these CHP recovery perks? I mean, CHP in regen in this game in general has always been a bit buggy. That has been a pain in the ass. It also says fixed a bug with the Power Sword. The 3rd attack in the light combo is missing in some cases. And it also says fixed a bug with the Thunder Hammer. Assault class perk Overcharge not buffing the 2nd ground slam attack when Seismic Chain weapon perk is picked. This is also really a nice change because the Seismic Chain perk is quite strong in my opinion, especially on things like the Balance Hammer. The block hammer doesn't take as much advantage of it, but still having that extra damage, pretty nice. It also says fixed another bug with the Thunder Hammer where Assault's class perk Overcharge once again is not giving the 25% buff for Aftershock attack when Aftershock improved weapon perk is equipped. Excuse me. I'm glad they fixed that because Aftershock improved is an amazing perk. Also says fixed a bug the Thunder Hammer perk after Aftershock not giving the 10% melee damage buff when Aftershock improved weapon perk is equipped, which is kind of a terrible thing, guys. Aftershock improved is like the best thing ever, and the fact that these were bugged for so long, it sucked ass. I'm glad they are finally changed, so that's a pretty good thing here. It also says lots of minor bug fixes, localization fixes, UI, and sound fixes. And that is pretty much everything. They talked about a couple known issues here. Say customization loading scene, the bots customization options chosen by players aren't displayed during the loading screen to PvE missions, and the art customization PvE champion skins aren't applied to bots in gameplay. And mouse inputs can be randomly disabled. Alt-tabbing can solve the issue. Let us know if you encounter this issue. Okay, guys, that might actually kill you in game occasionally, but I'm gonna go and play the PTS now. Hopefully this sounds good to people. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I imagine some changes will be made once again before the PTS is over in a week, but having these overcharge perks fixed, having this new assault ability, this all sounds pretty amazing. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and if you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, take it easy. Bye.